Hello and welcome to the Brandon Smith Rugby channel here on YouTube, and welcome to a very special video today on the channel. We're going to be taking a look at Italy. Are Italy good enough to be in the Six Nations? That's the big question that is going around at the minute within the rugby world. Should we be looking at alternative options for Italy? Should we be looking at promotion, relegation, or should we simply just kick them out of the tournament completely? Today, we're going to have a look at the opening 3 rounds of the Six Nations. We're going to have a look at them historically in the tournament. We're going to have a look at the club rugby in Italy and make our minds up on what should happen with the Italians. As always, if you're new here, do subscribe. It's free to do, and thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. Anyway, let's crack on with the video. So Italy joined the competition in 2000, and they've only managed to win 12 games during the past years of being in the competition. They've beaten every bar England, which shows a little bit of progress. But should they be in the Six Nations? Well, let's take a look at the 2021 Six Nations. So far, 3 games, 3 losses. It doesn't look great on paper, but what do statistics and other factors tell us about these games? But before we get into them games, let's talk about 3 players who are missing from this squad for various reasons, who I believe would make a massive impact in this Italian squad and would certainly be starting, without a shadow of a doubt, would be starting. First of all, it's Matteo Minozzi, who plays for Wasps. The fullback is electrifying. He creates something out of nothing a lot of the time. He's not in the squad, decided prior to the tournament that he couldn't commit to the COVID bubble due to mental and physical tiredness. Jake Pelledri then, the forward, out injured for the duration of the campaign, a big ball carrier, currently playing his rugby with Gloucester in the Premiership. Bramstein, then the South African-born flanker, currently plays for Benetton Treviso, and a big ball carrier and a leader as well. The 28-year-old is out injured. So let's take a look at the 3 games that they've been involved in so far. 3 losses out of 3. It doesn't look too great at the minute. And over that time, they've conceded 139 points while only managing to score 38. First up, they faced France at home on the opening game of the tournament, losing that one 10 points to 50. It's very difficult to determine how good France were or how poor Italy were, but let's see what the stats say about this game, and they make for very interesting reading. They'll come up on your screen now. So Italy, in terms of possession, dominated in the possession area, 57% to France's 43%. While territory was 53% to the Italians, compare that to France's 47%. Now, these time in possession and time in opposition 22 tell us a lot. Time in possession was 21 minutes and 7 seconds for Italy. Compare that to 15 minutes and 48 seconds of France. While time in opposition 22 is 3 minutes and 47 seconds compared to 2 minutes and 40 seconds of France. And then the big thing really for me is points per visit to the 22, 0.64% for Italy, while it was only 4.27%. That tells me one big thing. Italy aren't clinical. They don't finish their chances. Their build-up play is very, very good. And as you watch through the highlights of their games, you'll notice that they get into really good positions on the pitch. But for whatever reason, they just don't have that quality to finish. And I think that's down to a few various factors. First of all, them 2 forwards I spoke about, Jake Pelledri and Bramstein, huge ball carriers who get over the gain line, who give you front foot ball, who enable you to drag in defenders, and then you have the space out wide. That is something that they've lost a lot this tournament. Maya has stepped in and done a decent job for them, but he's not the level of them too. Minozzi's a brilliant finisher. They're really missing him at fullback as well. Now, why are Italy so unclinical? Why don't they finish their opportunities? It could be down to a few factors, as I said, missing them players, but it could also be down to inexperience. This team, the average age of this team is 23 years old. It's a very, very young squad. A lot of the old guard stepped out players, such as Tommaso Allen, hasn't played that much, hasn't really been in the squad that much, to be honest, has come off the bench and played a little bit. And older players, maybe through injury or retirement, have not been as involved. And Franco Smith is certainly looking to the future. The second game against England was not so pretty to read. You'll be able to see the stats on your screen now. So the stats for this game are not easy to read if you're an Italian fan. England dominated this game in pretty much every aspect. England, their 59% possession compared to Italy's 41%. Territory then 60% to 40%. Time in opposition 22 is 4 minutes to 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Time in possession, as you can see, England are very, very dominant in this game. A lot of reasons for this. England's power game was very good on the day. Their forwards actually played really well on the day. Of course, Johnny May got that controversial try, but on the whole, England actually played really well in this game going forward. And Italy just couldn't get the ball. But when they did, they actually did all right. When they went to the 22, they got 2 points out of every time they went to the 22, which for them is much of an improvement on that points against the French when they had so much time in the French 22. So then if we head over to the game against Ireland, they lost this one on the day. This was, in fact, a 48-10 loss at home. They were losing 27-10 at half-time. But this game is actually fairly equal in terms of the statistics. Italy with 47% possession compared to 53, 48% then again to Ireland's 52%. Possession, time in possession, again, is very close. Time in opposition, 22, is extremely close. Only a seventh of a second gap in there. And again, it's that thing, isn't it, of being clinical. Italy are just not clinical. 3 minutes and 30 seconds in the opposition, 22. Points per visit to 22, 1.67 compared to Ireland's 2.8. Although pretty much the time they spent in each other's 22 is exactly the same. So it's this clinicalness that Italy just simply do not have. So for me, if I was an Italian coach, I'd be very encouraged by the build-up play, the ability of the players to get themselves into those positions, but you'd be concerned about the ability to finish those opportunities. And that's what the best teams do in the world. They sense an opportunity and they can finish them. That is what Italy struggle with. Again, in this game, Italy's ill discipline really did let them down. We'll scroll down to see the discipline as well. It doesn't read pretty if you're an Italian fan. 2 yellow cards in this game, 8 pens at the ruck conceded, 3 offside penalties. Again, that's just very, very silly and maybe down to tiredness. Penalties conceded on the ground, 8. Again, Ireland have some world-class back rows who would win the game of the breakdown. Penalties conceded in total was 18. So that would be a massive concern if you are an Italian fan. But again, being 27-10 down at half time, how much of confidence do you have going into the second half? How much do you really want to go out there and perform? Is very, very difficult to tell. So we've taken a look at the 3 games. We see some positives, we see some negatives, but now let's look at some players. And I've been very impressed by some of the players on show for the Italians. First of all, I've got to talk about Stephen Varney. 19 years old, born actually in Pembrokeshire in Wales, but qualifies for Italy through his grandmother. He plays for Gloucester in the Premiership, not a regular starter, but plays for Gloucester. A very, very exciting young scrum half who takes the game by the scruff of the neck. He really sees an opportunity and he absolutely goes for it. He taps and goes. He really snipes around the breakdown. He's very, very exciting. His stats against France and England look like this. He played 80 minutes against France, 109 passes made, 2 offloads, 3 broken tackles and 1 turnover. Against England, then 70 minutes played, 58 passes made, offloads are 1, broken tackles 1, and a turnover 1 as well. And he seems to be building a really nice link up and a partnership with Paolo Garbisi. Talking about Garbisi, very, very impressed by him as well. I think he needs to work on his kicking game, but his control of the game is actually pretty impressive. Maybe a little bit lightweight as well, so he needs to work in that department. But being 19 and 21 years old, that's a halfback pairing that Italy really can build this team about. And a concern for Italy over the past few years has been the chop and changing constantly of players. And that simply cannot help. It cannot have that continuation. You cannot develop a squad while you're changing them every 10 seconds. The other big player I really want you to remember is Monty Ayone, the winger. Born, obviously, in the Southern Hemisphere, in Australia. Brilliant winger. And he's really, really impressed me. Stats against France look like this. 80 minutes played, 136 metres made, 15 carries, 6 broken tackles, 2 tackles made. Missed 0 tackles, and a tackle success rate gives him 100%. A success rate on that one. And then his stats against England are very, very good as well. 80 minutes played, 96 metres made, 1 try, 6 carries, 2 broken tackles, 4 tackles made, 0 tackles missed, and also 100% tackle success rate. So there are some players who are performing for Italy. It seems that the defence is really struggling, and by the end of the game, maybe tiredness and also inexperience really kicks in, and the ill discipline starts to come in as well. But let's look at the wider game. So we've looked at Italy in the Six Nations, but let's look at Italian rugby in general. Let's take a look at the 2 sides currently competing in the Pro 14, that is Benetton and Zebra. Now, Benetton historically are the strongest of the 2 sides, but this season has been a very difficult season for them. But there's a lot of hope as well for Benetton. I say that, and what I'm going to say next is very much going to contradict myself, because they actually sit bottom of conference B. They've not had a single win. They've not had a single draw. They've lost all their games. But when you actually look at their results, which will be on your screen now, a lot of the games have been very, very close, and they've been really unlucky to lose them. So they lost on the opening day against Ulster 35-24. No shame in that at all. Ulster, one of the strongest teams in the division. Leinster as well beat them 37-25. But then if you look through some of the results, Benetton against Munster, they lost by 2 points there. They lost by 2 points against Ospreys away at the Liberty, and the Ospreys are doing really well this season. They lost away at Zebra 22-18, which isn't great. They also lost then against Connacht at home 17-19, which is a very close game. So their games they're not getting smashed in games. Only 1 or 2 games again absolutely smashed in. Of course, Italy have a lot less of a player pool to go from, and the quality of players and the popularity of the sport, it's just not the levels of here in Wales or in Ireland, England, Scotland or France. It's just not at that level. And when those players leave for the Six Nations, you really see the impact of that, or when they get injuries, you really see the impact of that. The other Pro 14 team then, of course, is Zebra. Now, Zebra have really impressed me this season, and I've been really surprised by them. I said at the start of the season, Zebra won't win a game this season, and by my word, I was wrong. They sit 4th in Conference A with 4 wins from 12. They've beaten Ospreys 23-17. They've beaten Benetton twice, so at home they beat them 22-18. And then away they beat them 24-15, which is actually a very good win. And most recently, they actually beat the Dragons 26 points to 15. And not one of Zebra's players who was in the Six Nations squad was playing that day. Not one of them. So that's a really encouraging sign if you're a Zebra fan. So rugby in Italy is in a bit of a weird place at the minute. They're showing promise, but once again, really struggling. And that's obviously showing in the national team. They're showing promise, but they just can't quite get there. They just can't get over the line. It's very much shown the same with Benetton, isn't it? So finally, the big question, of course, has to be about Georgia. Many people have been saying Georgia should replace Italy in the Six Nations, which I think personally is quite a stupid thing to suggest. Why I would say this? Well, I understand to an extent. They've won the Rugby Championship countless amount of times. Recently just won it. They beat Russia in the final. But what are they like against the Italians? Well, they've only played Italy twice. They've lost twice. The most recent of them coming in 2018 as Italy won that one 28 points to 17. Tommaso Allen absolutely ran the game that day. And to be honest, I was not that impressed by them in last year's Autumn Nations Cup. They lost against Wales 18-0 down at Packers. Again, an extremely rotated Wales team. They lost against Ireland 23 points to 10. Again, a very heavily rotated Irish side. And then the big one was they lost to Fiji 38 points to 24. Now, Fiji, this was pretty much their first game of the tournament. They had been hit by COVID so hard, and yet Georgia got pretty much smashed in this game, if we're being totally honest. And I haven't seen enough from Georgia to suggest that they could really compete with the Italians. So what would I suggest? Well, I think kicking Italy out of the Six Nations doesn't help. It doesn't help Italian rugby, and it doesn't help European rugby at all. The simple answer would be that Italy then would win the Rugby Championship every single year. I would very much be in favour of seeing a promotion and relegation system put in place so that the team who wins the Rugby Championship then plays against the bottom team in the Six Nations in a playoff, maybe on a neutral ground or two-legged game between the both sides to see who wins, and whoever wins gets to either go up to the Six Nations or remains in the Six Nations, depending on who wins it. Whether the Six Nations involves Wales, Ireland, Scotland, France, Italy and England would be willing to agree to such a thing, I don't think so. Money talks, unfortunately. And would a country, maybe Wales or Scotland, had a really poor year and finished bottom and lost to Georgia or lost to Russia or Romania, would they be happy to agree to that? I don't think so. But there we go. Those are my thoughts of the Italian national team. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. And if you're an Italian fan, let me know your perspective of Italian rugby and a little bit more detail about rugby in the country. Let me know what you think should happen with the Italians. And hopefully that's opened your eyes a little bit to the situation just that bit more. Anyway, if you have enjoyed, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, helps the channel grow as we push to that 1,100 subscribers. Once again, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Lots of exciting collaborations and videos coming over the next few weeks. Appreciate you watching this. Take care, stay safe. I know it's difficult out there, but do remain positive and enjoy the rugby. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. and peace.